Let's turn our attentions back to the French elections, where we did see, of course, an astonishing victory for Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party, which looks set, depending on what happens in Sunday's second round of elections next weekend, could see her protégé, President of the party, Georges Bardella, as the next Prime Minister of France. Well, what happens next? Let's talk to Anne Elisabeth-Moutet, who's a French journalist and writer at The Telegraph and joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Anne Elisabeth.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, in terms of what happened, how much of a surprise was it that this was the outcome of this snap election called by Emmanuel Macron following the success of Le Pen's party in the European elections?
Not much of a surprise, because actually the polls were excellent throughout. The European election, to a large extent, was a life-size poll, but it was a life-size poll in a different voting system. It's PR one round, and therefore it was very exact in terms of number of voices, of votes. But on this one, we've got a complicated first-past-the-post two-round system in which, if Macron gets his what he wants, which is to make his candidates, who in very often in constituencies have come third, to give up in order to give, to have some of their voters, probably not all of them, vote for the left-wing candidate to bar the way to the national rally. There's a great deal of tactical voting, and we will know on Sunday how much of this works.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's been a gamble by Emmanuel Macron. And one wonders whether he thought, well, people won't be voting for Le Pen's national rally when it's a national election as opposed to a European election. We've seen that's what's played out in our past elections with UKIP and the like.
Yes.
Well, they'll win, and then they'll have to be in power alongside him as the president, because he's got another couple of years. But they won't be able to. They'll no longer be the sort of the outsiders. They'll be in the inside. They won't be able to get anything done, and then they'll be exposed. Big gamble on both sides. But it's also a big gamble for the voters, isn't it? Because this idea that when we saw it almost immediately when those elections were called, these big blocs. We've got Macron's sort of centrist group, pretty unpopular, came third. We've got the left, and we've got the right, centrists, and again, we're calling this party, everyone's saying far right. I think hard right is a more accurate description. National Front was far right. This is a hard right party. But there seems to be very little discussion of what the left is offering. We're looking at hard left. Communist parties, being part of these coalitions. A lot of voters, given a choice, but saying, do I want the hard left, the communists, or do I want Le Pen? Might very well say, I'll go for Le Pen, thank you very much.
Well, that certainly is going to happen. You call Mélenchon a communist. It's a bit complicated, because actually France, which used to have one of the largest communist parties in the free world, with up to 28% of the vote in the 1950s and 60s, they have dwindled to such a small party, the old-style Communist Party, that their leader actually lost his constituency, and they polled 2% or under 2%. And what they have been replaced by are much nastier people. They are a combination of identitarians who haven't found the bunch of murdering freedom fighters that they don't love, who are anti-Semitic. Macron called them anti-Semitic on 12th of June, but now he says that his people should vote for it, for it, etc. So we're talking about La France Insoumise, which is a kind of Leninist, Corbynite type party. That's the best way to define it.
Yeah, I mean, Mélenchon, this is Jean-Luc Mélenchon, isn't it? But that's it. I do find it fascinating the way that everyone talks about the right as being, beyond the pale, but the left, no, that's absolutely fine. And again, we had riots, violent protests on the streets of not just Paris, but Lille and Marseille last night. I imagine the outcry if it had been Le Pen supporters doing that, but no, it's absolutely fine. All the shops have to board up their windows. Everyone in terror, cowering in terror, because the left were on the rampage. It does seem to me, as in France, as in the UK, and I think many countries, the left get a free pass.
The left has been getting a free pass for a very long time. Remember, in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, well, let's put the 40s aside, the Soviet Union was our ally, but they were killing millions of people in the gulags, and they had the most, they had a secret police, and then you had Mao, and you had all sorts of people saying, yes, but they are left-wing, and therefore we must not discourage the workers to voting on the left. It's a very old tradition. It continuates itself, and now the great rally cry in a completely French election is Palestine, which is, about the same value as the stuff that Stalin was saying. Yeah, indeed.
It's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Tell us, though, about the man who is very likely to be the next Prime Minister of France, in cohabitation, as it's called, with Macron's centrist party with the presidency, Jordan Bardella. 28-year-old, virtually unknown a few years ago, co-lead and president of Le Pen's party, the National Rally. Tell us just a little bit about him.
He is very interesting. He's very slick. The way he presents himself, his speech yesterday night, I mean, all of this was very... it was extremely statesmanlike. It was very impressive. He is less impressive if you have a long debate, as he had with the outgoing Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, in which it was very obvious that Attal knew his facts and what's possible to achieve and where to go back in terms of reserves for either money or policy support. And Bardella was, he was still very good and never offensive, but it was obvious that Attal, if you listened to what he was saying, was better. However, if you looked at Bardella and you listened to the music of his words instead of going into detail, Bardella was better. He was more
he's credible, but he's also got a fascinating background. He's the son of migrants himself, isn't he?
Yes, but take France. In France, 1 out of 3 French person has got ancestry that they can trace coming from somewhere else, because we, like America, we've always been a country of immigration.
But not their parents. I mean, that's not the case for most French people. And in terms of, just finally, in terms of what this could mean for Britain, a lot of what Keir Starmer, the Labour leader here, is promising if he becomes Prime Minister is that, a deal on stopping the boats, the Channel migrants. He's going to get in a room with Emmanuel Macron and talk about this. If Emmanuel Macron obviously stays on as president for the next few years, but you've got Jordan Bardella as Prime Minister, does that change things?
What changes is that people will find it more difficult to come through France. We've got a large sea border. We've got a large land border within the Schengen area, and therefore we're not allowed to have police and border checks. So this is why migrants come through France. And then they try to leave France partly because they don't speak French, and partly because we don't make life very comfortable for them. The result was, the small boats. The small boats themselves leave from a border, a coast, which is more than 150 miles long, and it is extremely difficult to stop it. And also, when you've got 2 or 3 cops and you've got 40 migrants and 6 people traffickers with weapons, there's an imbalance. It's not that we want to send them to you. Honestly, we do not. It's also that once they're at sea, you've got those poor people at sea, and I sail myself. The law of the sea is you save people who are in peril on the sea. That's nothing you can do about that one. But certainly there will be efforts, and they will not be the best efforts if we don't work it from where they come from to begin with, I think.
Well, we shall wait and see. Anne Elisabeth-Moutet, thank you very much indeed. Just final word with Sam Armstrong on this. I think there are going to be massive implications here. So much of what Keir Starmer is going to do is that he's just going to sit down and talk with people. The idea that Emmanuel Macron's suddenly going to help him, he wouldn't have helped Rishi Sunak or anyone else, any predecessor, I think is for the birds. I really do. But will he get more help because from Jordan Bardella, or less help? Or is the situation going to be easier because the French will not be making life easier and people won't be travelling to France to go to Calais to get on boats here? It could go either way, couldn't it?
Look, I think when you're a centrist Davos dad type like Starmer, this is the worst possible time to be losing Biden and Macron, which is where we're going. The timing could not be worse for him. And look, this is why David Lammy, I think, has had to be very who's Labour's shadow foreign secretary. Had to be very kind of careful.
But unlikely, we think, to become foreign secretary.
He doesn't feel so. But he feels like he's had to try and get on with these people because the Keir Starmer early period of government is going to be dominated by populists around the world.
It really is going to be absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much indeed, Sam.